Hey, so you bought a Yamaha AW16G. That means you probably already know that it sounds great, is easy to use, it's portable, and will help you produce your own music the way you hear it. Well, this video is designed to get you up and running on the 16G fast. It's short and straight to the point. In the next few minutes, we'll take a song from inspiration to finished CD. We'll also look under the hood and explore some of the power and versatility of this very cool unit. This video is all about helping you make music with the AW16G. We'll start by connecting some gear, then jump right in making music with the quick loop sampler using one of the built-in rhythms. We'll move on and learn how to record, overdub, edit, mix, master, and burn a CD. Finally, we'll wrap it up with some interesting ways to use a few other features. Now, you may want to have the manual within reach to check out specific details on topics that interest you along the way. For example, let's take a quick look at the various components of the AW16G. Chapter 2 of the owner's manual gives an overview of its structure and various sections of the top and rear panels, plus a definition of important terms and a quick look at its basic operations. Now, we'll cover a lot of this, but you may want to pause the video now and look it over in the manual. A good place to start is the diagram in Chapter 2, which illustrates the full-featured mixer section and how signals flow within the 16G.
The AW16G mixer provides 36 channels during mixdown. This includes 8 inputs on the back panel, 16 recorder tracks, 2 pairs of stereo effects returns, plus 4 stereo returns from the sampling pads. In addition to the 16-track recorder is a master stereo track that is used to burn the finished song to CD. Stereo digital in and out capability is also available. Review Chapter 2 of the AW16G Owner's Manual for an overview as well as more detailed information.
This diagram also points out other cool features which we'll get to later in this video. The quick loop sampler, the sound clip function, and of course, the CD burner and player. But this is just the beginning. The 16G features 4 bands of fully sweepable parametric EQ and dynamics processors on every channel, using 32-bit internal processing. So what does this mean to you? That's power to shape your tracks just the way you want them, with front panel knobs and intuitive displays that make access really fast and easy. Plus, you can record up to 8 tracks at once and play back 16 at once, all with full, rich sound and no audio or data compression. This is perfect for recording a whole band at once or a complete drum kit on separate tracks. You'll also appreciate this tremendous flexibility during edits, overdubs, and mixing. And each recorded track has up to 8 virtual tracks. Now, these allow you to experiment and get just the right take, maybe even piece together that perfect killer solo. The options are limitless when you're in control of the recording process. Plus, if you're wearing lots of hats, producer, engineer, player, you'll find markers, auto punch, and scene memories helpful when you focus on one task at a time. This takes the pressure off and opens new doors for you to create your music your way. Now, this is only a taste of the power of this machine, but I'm sure you're ready to get started. So let's get to it. After settling your AW16G into its new home, plugging it in and powering it up, you may want to listen to the demo that ships on the internal hard drive. Now, this will let you know that the unit is working okay and will give you an idea of how it sounds at your place.
To listen to the factory demo, connect a monitoring system or headphones as shown in Chapter 3 of the AW16G Owner's Manual. Then follow the step-by-step loading and playing instructions. Continue reading Chapter 3 to learn how to create your own mix of the demo song.
Next, you'll want to hook up your own gear and get ready to make some music. The 16G offers a variety of inputs to handle everything from mics and acoustic instruments to line-level sources like keyboards and drum machines. Make sure the power is off, then begin connecting your gear. All 8 channels offer balanced inputs. Notice that channels 1 and 2 provide XLR inputs and phantom power for microphones. Channels 3 through 8 provide quarter-inch TRS phono jacks, and channel 8 also provides a high-impedance, unbalanced quarter-inch phone jack. This lets you connect an electric guitar or bass directly to the 16G. For this video, let's connect a mono synth output to input 3. You'll also need to hook up a way to listen to or monitor the 16G's output, either through an amp and speakers connected to the left and right monitor out jacks here, or just a pair of headphones connected here. Power up any external gear, in this case the synth, then bring the stereo fader down and power up the 16G. Power up your amp, then bring the fader up about halfway. Adjust the level of the headphones here. Again, start at about halfway up and fine-tune as needed. Next, we need to make sure there is a new song, a fresh starting place, loaded into memory. Of course, this means no data recorded on any tracks, but it also means the fader values are set to nominal. All EQ settings are flat. There are no dynamic settings on any channels, and so on. Basically, everything is zeroed out. When you power up the AW16G, the last song and all of its settings will load automatically into memory. But when you power up the very first time, this new song setup is ready to go.
To follow the examples in this video, make sure a new song is loaded into memory. Press Song repeatedly to select the list menu item. Note, you can also press and hold Song, then use the arrow keys to move up or down the list of menu items. Cursor over to New and press Enter. Cursor over to Yes in the pop-up window to save the current song, or No to not save the current song. Then press Enter to make your selection. Next, select items to import into the new song. For now, cursor over to OK and press Enter. Input a name for the new song, or, for this example, skip it and do this step later. Then cursor over to OK and press Enter. Refer to the section called Creating a New Song in Chapter 5 of the AW16G Owner's Manual for more information.
Now we need a complete signal path from our instrument through the mixer to the recorder, back to the mixer, and onto the monitors. To do this, the 16G provides a built-in patch bay. This allows you to cable up once and then route the signals from any input to any track in the recorder just by pressing a few buttons, instead of having to plug and unplug a bunch of cables. Again, it's about making things fast and easy. For this video, let's patch the signal coming from our synth at input 3, through the mixer, in this case channel 3, and onto the stereo bus to hear it through the monitors. Here's how.
Chapter 4 in the Owner's Manual provides complete step-by-step instructions for connecting your instrument or a mic to the AW16G and adjusting the input level. For now, follow these abbreviated steps. Set the stereo fader and the gain knob for the selected input, in this case number 3, to their lowest level. Press and hold the Input Select button to access the pop-up window. Use the cursor keys and data jog dial to set the input level to 0.0. Use the cursor keys and press Enter to set the stereo bus assign switch to On. Now play your instrument and raise the stereo fader until you see a strong signal level in the display. Continue to play and slowly turn the monitor headphones knob to the right, setting it to an appropriate output level. To exit this pop-up window, move the cursor to Exit and press Enter.
A quick review of how we left things in the last section of this video. Hook up your gear, set the input levels, then make sure you start with a new song in the 16G.
Refer to Chapters 4 and 5 of the AW16G Owner's Manual for more information on these important topics.
Now it's time to start thinking about the tune. A couple of cool features in the 16G may get your creative juices flowing: the quick loop sampler and sound clip. In this case, we'll use the quick loop sampler and find a built-in rhythm for the tune. The 16G comes with hundreds of rhythms and sounds already loaded on the hard drive, and these can be used as is or sliced and reworked to create something new and fresh that sparks a starting point for you. Keep in mind that you can treat these rhythms or any sound you assign to the pads with EQ and dynamics processors such as gate, compressors, etc. You can even apply built-in digital effects such as reverb, delay, or chorus to get just the sound you're looking for. And what's more, you can record your performance on these pads as part of each song in the AW. This means unlimited creative possibilities. For this example, I've loaded rhythm Syncopation 89 to the pads. By the way, the number at the end of each file name is the original tempo of the loop. But you don't have to live there. By setting the monitor tempo function to song, the sample will play back at any tempo you choose for the song, in this case 110 beats per minute. There are lots of options you have for each sample, and that means lots of control for using these factory rhythms and sounds in your own way.
Review Chapter 11 in the Owner's Manual for complete information about the Quick Loop Sampler function, as well as step-by-step instructions for auditioning and loading sounds and rhythms, playing sounds on the pads, the difference between one-shot and looping sounds, how to review up to 4 sounds per pad per sound set, setting the tempo to match your song, and other important information. To try the example in this video, follow these abbreviated instructions. Press the Quick Loop Sampler Edit key repeatedly to select the Library menu item. Turn the Data Jog dial to select Syncopation 89. Cursor over to Recall and press Enter. Move the cursor to All and press Enter. Raise the stereo fader all the way up. Press any of the 4 pads to hear the samples. Follow the instructions below to set the song's tempo to 110 beats per minute and set the pads to match the song's tempo. Press Song repeatedly to select the Tempo menu item. Move the cursor over the tempo, the 5th item over, currently set to 120 beats per minute. Move the Data Jog dial to set the tempo to 110 beats per minute. Notice that it also changes in the upper portion of the display. Press Edit repeatedly to select the Setup menu item. Move the cursor down to the Monitor Tempo field and move the Data Jog dial to change from original to song. Press Pad 1 to hear the loop play back at the new tempo.
You know, once you've got things set up the way you want, it's a good time to save the song to disk. In fact, it's a good habit to save every once in a while during a session. Also, whenever you power down the 16G, you'll want to save the current song to disk, and that's part of the shutdown function, which we'll cover in the wrap section later in this video. It's better for the unit to do it this way. Plus, when you start up the 16G, this song automatically loads into memory, so you can pick up where you left off.
Review the section called Saving the Current Song in Chapter 6 to learn how to save the current song to the hard drive.
Well, let's get on with making music. Sometimes the best ideas just happen while you're jamming with a track. Now, 16G's sound clip function is designed to capture these inspired moments, kind of a scratch pad for your musical ideas. Here's the deal. The sound clip function is a continuous loop recorder. In other words, once you press the red light, it continuously records anywhere from 30 seconds to a maximum of 3 minutes of the last material you play. When you hear something you like or want to keep, take it out of record. You can then audition what you played, loop it for practicing or layering on top, or even copy it to a track in the recorder if it's something you want to keep and work into a song. Let's break it down.
Review the section called Recording to a Sound Clip in Chapter 4 for complete information and step-by-step instructions on using this function. To try this function now, follow this abbreviated list of steps. Press Sound Clip. Turn the Data Jog dial to set the tempo to 110 beats per minute. Press and hold Record, then press Play to begin recording. Press Pad 1 to start the basic groove and play along. The sound clip function will continuously record the last 30 seconds of material. When you hear something you like, press Stop, then Play to hear it back. Again, refer to Chapter 4 in the Owner's Manual for more complete information and instructions on using SoundClip.
So as you can see, the SoundClip function is really easy to use, but it's also pretty deep if you want to get into it. On the tech side, this is a separate area of memory, and it doesn't use up a track in your song or space on your hard drive unless you choose to, by using Edit Copy to move it onto a track in the recorder. By the way, the contents of this memory area are stored with each song, so those ideas are always nearby. Also, when you create a new song in the AW16G, you can specify up to 3 minutes of sound clip time. Imagine jamming away and then moving the best of what you did into your tracks. Or if nothing memorable happens, flush it, try again. It really takes the pressure off and helps you fuel your creativity. You can even add EQ, dynamics, and effects to dial in your sound, either before or during this whole process. It's all about you making music. Okay, we like the rhythm track from the quick loop sampler and want to start recording. We'll start by laying down 4 minutes of rhythm on a pad track. We can do some creative mixing and editing later, so for now all we want is a backbone, a consistent beat for the length of the tune. And check this out. The pad track only records the events that are made on the pads. The button pushes themselves, not the actual sound. So it leaves all 16 tracks available for recording other parts. And we can go back and add fills or interesting breaks later to fit with the recorded tracks. Now with the rhythm track down as our foundation, let's record our first track, a synth guitar part. Remember the signal diagram in Chapter 2 of the Owner's Manual? Well, this is where it comes in handy. Think of the 16G as several pieces of gear in one package. Digital mixer, effects processor, patch bay, recorder, CD burner, and much more. Right now, though, let's focus on just the mixer and recorder. Now, there are two ways to get signals from the inputs on the mixer to tracks in the recorder. Direct or using the left-right bus. Simply put, direct is a direct connection from a single input channel through a channel on the mixer and onto a track in the recorder. This is handy when you want to record, overdub, or double a part from the same source on several tracks. It gives you complete flexibility and control during mixing because each recorded track is independent and available for its own treatment during the final mix.
Refer to the section called Direct Recording and Bus Recording in Chapter 5 for an overview of these two methods of assigning inputs to tracks for recording.
The other option is to route the signal from an input to 1 or 2 tracks in the recorder using the left-right bus. Now, a bus is simply a vehicle for getting something from one place to another. In this case, signals from the inputs to destination tracks in the recorder. This method gives you the ability to submix and record multiple sources at the same time onto 1 or 2 tracks. It conserves recorder tracks and simplifies the final mix because much of the relative mixing is already done. For this example, though, let's use direct recording, assigning input 3 to track 3 in the recorder. This method uses the software patch bay that's built into the 16G. It's just like using a cable to connect a source. The mixer input channel on which your instrument is connected with a destination, the track on which you want to record.
To follow along with this video, make sure you start with a new song as described in the section called Creating a New Song in Chapter 5. Next, review the section called Assigning Input Signals to Tracks, Direct Recording, for complete step-by-step instructions on this process. The basic steps are outlined below. Press Record repeatedly until you select Direct in the menu list. Press Input Select 3, then press Track Select 3 to enable the Record Ready mode for this track. Next, press and hold Input Select 3 to access the Input Setting pop-up window. Adjust the input level using the gain knob in the display. Move the cursor to Stereo, then press Enter to route the signal through the stereo bus for monitoring. Move the cursor to Exit and press Enter to return to the previous screen. To record, press and hold Record and Play.
Let's listen for the loop playing back from pad 1. I like to let a couple of bars roll as a count-off. We can edit those out later. To hear what we just recorded, press stop. Press RTZ or return to 0 to go back to the top, then press play. Now there are a couple of cool things we can do here. First, if you're not happy with the recording, simply press undo. This will delete your last recording. It also keeps the track clean. You know, if you happen to record a new track that's shorter than the previous take, you won't hear any extra bits and pieces. Also, you can use markers to jump right to various sections of the tune. Now we'll use these very happening little time savers in the next section of this video when we overdub some vocals. For now, just before the track starts, press mark to set a marker. The 16G also provides virtual tracks. Now these allow you to record alternate takes of the same part, so you can keep up to 8 different versions of a part and then decide which one or even which pieces of various takes are best. Of course, you'll want to save your work along the way.
Review the section called Saving the Current Song in Chapter 6 to learn how to save the current song to the hard drive.
This may also be a good time to use the sound clip function to play with some melodies, some scratch vocals, or to start some ideas for a guitar solo. Again, you'll find your own way with these tools. Just remember, they're all there for you, to help you explore your own music. At this point, let's cut several layers of background vocals because you've got to see how wicked fast it is to double parts using markers. We'll also look at how to route the vocal input signal to various tracks in the recorder using the onboard patch bay. So let's dig in. First, we'll connect a mic to input 1 using an XLR cable. And we'll turn phantom power on for this particular condenser mic. Next, we need to figure out how we want to use the recorder tracks. Now the drum loop uses the pad record function, so it doesn't use up a track in the recorder. The comp guitar part is on track 3, and I've already recorded a synth bass part on track 5. Laren is going to break out the pipes and record some background vocals on tracks 11, 12, 13, and 14. Let's take a quick listen to the lead vocals, which have already been recorded on tracks 9 and 10. As we do, I'll press mark to set a marker where we want to go back and add more vocal parts.
Review the section called Using Markers in Chapter 7 for more information on adding markers to a song. Subsequent sections in the owner's manual explain how to adjust the position and erase locate points or markers. Here are some useful tips for using markers on the AW16G. You can have up to 99 markers per song. Markers are stored with each song. The AW16G automatically numbers markers as you add them. If you add a new marker in between existing markers, subsequent markers are renumbered automatically.
Now, with the markers set, just press the Mark Search buttons to skip forward or back. And because this is digital, there's no tape rewind time. Plus, the markers mean Laren knows exactly where to begin singing with each pass. This will let us build up several layers of tracks. That is, if Laren's up for it. Cool. All right, let's get started. First, we'll route the signal from input 1, the mic, through mixer channel 1 and on to record track 11.
Review the section called Assigning the Input Signal to a Track in Chapter 6 for more information on routing signals in the AW16G.
Now we're ready to overdub. Press record and play, and
Gotta get the love, gotta love it to make me feel.
when he's finished, We can either keep it and move on or press undo, which wipes out the last action, in this case the recording, and try another take. Once we have a take that we want to keep, it's good practice to save.
Review the section called Saving the Current Song in Chapter 6 to learn how to save the current song to the hard drive.
The next step is to double the vocal part, and here's where markers really pay off. Press the previous mark search to jump right back to the same position. Now, route the mic input to record track 12 using the left-right bus routing technique. Then, press record and play, and
Gotta get the love, gotta love what you make me feel.
continue this process to double or layer the vocal part.
Review the section called Assigning Input Signals to Tracks, Bus Recording in Chapter 5 for more information on routing signals in the AW16G.
Okay, now that we have the tracks recorded, let's explore some of the editing possibilities on the AW16G. These include erase, delete, insert, copy, move, exchange, time compress, pitch shift, and export. Many of these tools can be performed on a complete track or even down to a specific region of time within the track.
Review Chapter 12 for a complete overview and step-by-step instructions for editing in the AW16G. To see the type of edit functions that are available on the AW16G, press Edit repeatedly to scroll through the list of options. Another method is to press and hold Edit, then press the up or down arrow repeatedly to scroll through the list.
Here's a great way to speed the input and accuracy of entering time regions for editing on the 16G. Use markers. There are several ways to set marker positions. The most musical is to set them in real time while you listen to the tracks playing back. Just like we did in the overdub section of this video, press play, and when you hear the region you want to edit, press mark. When you hear the end of the section you want to edit, press mark again. This inserts two markers that define a region of time. You can then use these markers to automatically input the start and end times in the edit screens. Now this method usually gets you in the ballpark, which is great for punching in or recording, but may not be as precise as you want for editing. So you can also adjust the markers to get millisecond accuracy, which is perfect for razor-tight editing.
Review the section called Adjusting the Position of a Locate Point or Marker in Chapter 7 for complete step-by-step instructions for fine-tuning markers in the AW16G.
There are other ways to dial in your marker locations. One is to use the jog dial, also called the nudge function, to listen to a short playback loop around the marker. Another is to look at the actual waveform.
Review the section called Finding a Location While Listening to the Sound in Chapter 7 for complete step-by-step instructions for fine-tuning markers using the nudge function. Also in Chapter 7 is a section called Finding a Location While You View the Waveform.
Once you have your markers dialed in exactly where you want them, call up an edit function. Choose the track and virtual track you want to edit, then move the cursor to the start time. Move to the marker that indicates the start time and press Enter. Do the same thing for the end time and bam! Instant precision. Move the cursor to Execute, press Enter, and away you go. Now all of this works really well within the AW16G. But if you want to use a personal computer, you can easily export a track, or even all of the tracks for editing in a software application. The key here is that in the edit screen, in the track field, you can choose to export a single track, a pair of tracks, the stereo track, all tracks 1 through 16, or even a sample. That's killer flexibility. This gives you the best of both worlds, the simplicity and convenience of editing inside the AW, or the visual power of editing on a computer. By the way, if you do export one or more tracks to the computer, make sure you export the whole thing as a complete track. This way, when you import it back into your song, everything will line up and stay in sync.
To import a track back into the AW16G from a CD, use the CD import function in the track display. Review the section called Importing from an Audio CD or WAV File in Chapter 12 for more information.
With the tracks recorded and edited, the next step is to start mixing. The AW16G opens a universe of possibilities here through EQ, dynamics, and effects processing. Now, covering any one of these topics is beyond the scope of this video, but there are lots of resources out there for learning what each of these tools does for you and how to use them effectively in a mix. The 16G also offers great power and flexibility with each of these tools, and because it all happens in the digital domain using 32-bit processing, your tracks stay smooth, quiet, and crystal clear. Getting to these tools is fast and easy. For example, to adjust the EQ for track 3, first select track 3 like this. Then press the EQ knob, which is also a switch when you push it. Then choose a band to adjust, in this case, high. Moving the knob adjusts the gain. For any other parameter, move the cursor and use the data dial. Dynamics, Effects 1 and 2, and Pan work in pretty much the same way. Select a channel, select the function, and make your change. Take a listen to the raw guitar track that was recorded using the high Z input on channel 8 straight out of the guitar. Now listen to the affected version on the 16G. Raw guitar, affected version. As you can hear, the 16G can easily transform an ordinary sounding track into something remarkable. In this case, using a combination of EQ, a compressor, an internal effect, and a very cool feature, the input channel effect, which provides a range of amp and speaker simulations or models.
Review the section called Using the Input Library in Chapter 5 for more information and step-by-step instructions on accessing this function. Refer to the appendix for a complete list and description of the input library effects.
Another thing to keep in mind, as you work with the 16G and develop your own unique EQ, dynamics, and effect settings, is to save them in libraries. This will greatly speed up your workflow and help give consistency to your sound.
The AW16G provides the following types of libraries: Input Channel, EQ, Dynamics, Effects, Mastering, Sample, and Channel. Review the section called Using Libraries and Scene Memories in Chapter 8 for complete information and step-by-step instructions for these important functions.
Scene memories in the 16G provide a snapshot of all the settings in your mix at any given time. Using scenes is a great way to shape the mix as it moves throughout your tune. In other words, you may have one scene for the verse and a different setup for the chorus. You can also use scenes to preset various recording parameters, such as EQ, compression, and effects to speed up getting ready for a new song. For example, if you have a vocal setup that you know works for a particular mic or vocalist, save it in a library, and save that library in a song called template. When you create a new song, import this library, or a complete scene, into memory for an instant setup and a starting place that you already know is happening.
Review step number 3 in the section called Creating a New Song in Chapter 5 for complete information and step-by-step instructions on this time-saving function.
Of course, along the way, you are remembering to save your song to disk, right?
Review the section called Saving the Current Song in Chapter 6 to learn how to save the current song to the hard drive.
Well, we're making some real progress. We've got a tune that's been recorded, edited, and mixed. The next steps are to master it, which means to prepare it to burn to CD, and then the burn itself. The process of mastering involves making a final 2-track or stereo mix. Now, in the past, this typically required a second deck or a DAT machine. But the 16G provides a separate stereo track built in just for this purpose. And it's this stereo track that actually gets burned to the CD in the next step. Now you can mix down a variety of signals, including any of the 16 tracks on disc, any of the 4 stereo pads, either a recorded performance or played in real time, plus any of the 8 inputs, all in real time. This even includes MIDI-controlled synths or modules synced up with your recorded tracks on disc. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. We'll look at the MIDI hard disk hybrid system in the wrap section later in this video. For now, let's break down the mixdown process.
To access the stereo track for mastering, press the Quick Navigate Record button several times to select Mixdown in the display. Then choose which channels or tracks to include in the mixdown. These may include any of the 8 inputs, the 4 stereo pads, or the 16 tracks playing back from disc. To try this, press Input Select keys 1 through 8 to remove them from the stereo bus during the final mixdown. Press to toggle them on or off. Repeat for any of the 16 tracks using the Track Select keys 1 through 16. Review Chapter 9 for more information and step-by-step instructions for recording the stereo track mixdown.
Alright, we're good to go to burn the CD. This can be done in one of 2 ways. Track at once mode, which allows you to finish one tune, burn it, then work on the next one. Or disc at once mode, which burns all of the tunes you want to a disc at one time and then finishes the disc so you can play it in other CD players. Now, one tip, don't skimp on your media. Be sure you use high-quality CDR or CDRW media. Think about it. It's your work, your art. Why take a chance on some funky media?
Review Chapter 10 for complete information and step-by-step instructions on how to burn a CD on the AW16G.
At some point, you'll finish your session and want to shut down the 16G. Now, one of the most important things to remember is to use the shutdown function. This tidies up the memory, gives you a chance to save your session to disk, and parks the heads on the hard drive. It's not only good practice, it's better for the 16G and will extend its life.
To shut down the AW16G, press Song repeatedly to select Shutdown in the display. Press Enter. Choose to save the current song or not by pressing Yes or No, then press Enter. When the display says it's safe to turn off the unit, press the power switch on the back panel. Review the section called Turning the Power On/Off in Chapter 1 to review the correct power on and off procedures.
Before we finish, let's take a quick look at a few other key features of the 16G. Use the bounce function to submix tracks and free up more recording tracks for your songs. The punch-in-out function is like an extra pair of hands that handle the engineering, freeing you to add an extra part or fix something in an otherwise great take. Review how to use markers to make the punch points exactly where you want them, and you'll always get a clean, perfect punch. Now, you might find the channel view screen to be really helpful for a big picture view at a glance. In fact, pressing View repeatedly offers you access to screen displays of metering, the faders, bus settings, as well as individual channels. Check it out. In this video, we loaded the pads with samples from the factory. However, you can also import material from sampling CDs, from tracks on disc like background vocals, guitar phrases, or whatever, and even sample from an external input signal like live vocals or rhythm fills. Also, we barely mentioned using virtual tracks. You can think of these as a place to store alternate takes. There are 8 virtual tracks for each recording track and even 8 virtual tracks for the stereo track. This gives you tremendous flexibility to try new ideas without having to give up a previous take. You can even combine portions of various virtual tracks to make a killer composite track. Another important utility capability is backup and restore. Use these tools to safely archive your projects in their native format along with their final mixes. You never know when you may want to revisit a project. We briefly touched on the routing possibilities while preparing to record, and one very convenient feature of the 16G is the quick record function. Now this allows you to instantly set up the 16G to record the 8 inputs to tracks 1 through 8 or 9 through 16. This is perfect for recording a band at one time. Fast, easy, cool. The 16G also provides some pretty serious MIDI capabilities. Using MIDI timecode or MTC, you can sync up an external sequencer with the recorded tracks and real-time mixing capabilities of the 16G. This means you can change your external tracks to fit better with vocals, solos, or whatever after they've been recorded. It also maximizes the number of available tracks in the 16G. Using MIDI, you can also think of the 16G faders, buttons, and knobs as a remote control surface for the software mixer in your sequencer or audio editing software. And with MIDI machine control, you can control the transport of an external unit, even a software-based sequencer using the 16G, or vice versa. This means tight, seamless integration of all components in your studio. Well, congratulations! You made it through this video, taking a song from idea to finished CD, and hopefully learning some useful and inspiring techniques along the way. But this is just the beginning. There is so much more the AW16G can do. And the more you use it, the more you'll find it a valuable tool for creating your music your way. Sweet! See ya.
Gotta give me love, gotta love what you make me feel.